Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully the drive-in, I don't know where people are coming from in the province, but I know my drive-in was a little slippery today in Edmonton, so hopefully people made it in okay. Just a quick reminder that our webinar today is being recorded. So if you have to leave early or want to reference it later or send it to someone, you will be able to. And yeah, my name is Rachel Carr. I'm a research and policy manager with PolicyWise for children and families. So we are a charitable not-for-profit organization who work with diverse partners to achieve our vision that children, youth, and families can thrive in respectful, safe, and supportive environments shaped by wise decisions. So to start our time together in the spirit of reconciliation, we just wanted to take a minute to honor and acknowledge that what we call Alberta, the land that we live, learn, and work on, is Treaty 6, 7, and 8 lands. It is the homeland of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. So really just wanted to start with this moment of reflection, with gratitude to those whose territory we live on or who are visiting, with gratitude for the land, and just for the opportunity to connect and learn together today. So jumping into a bit more of the details and the project that we're all here to learn more about. So the high-level objective of the project that we're going to talk about today was to look into sustainable practices to attract, retain, and support the well-being of newcomer young adults in Alberta's food and beverage sector. So why is this important? A couple things that just wanted to highlight really quick is the food and beverage sector has struggled with staff turnover and high vacancy rates. In December of 2023, the sector actually had the highest vacancy rates in all of the province of Alberta. And one promising solution is to focus on hiring and retaining newcomer young adults. So we're talking about those who are aged 18 to 29 who arrived in Canada within the past 5 years. And we know that this group, the stat I have here is a little bit old, about 4 years ago, but has an unemployment rate, or at least did then, of almost 20%. So what we did is funded by Alberta's Ministry of Jobs, Economy and Trade. We at PolicyWise partnered with food and beverage sector employees, sector associations, newcomer young adults, and community support agencies to really look at researching and piloting potential solutions to the issue. So I'd now like to introduce my colleague, Eric Van Spronsen, who is the project lead. He's going to go over the plan for today's webinar in more detail and help introduce and host the webinar.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Rachel. I've been really excited about this webinar for a couple of reasons. Of course, first being sharing what we've been up to with our partners over the past couple of years. And the second part is introducing you to some of our partners who I've met along the way. So this project was made possible, but is also richer in many ways because of their engagement and participation with us. But before we jump in, I just want to give a shout out to one of our colleagues here at PolicyWise, Courtney Lundy. She's in the background managing the technology, making sure that the webinar is running smoothly. So just a quick shout out to Courtney. So we do have a slide to share here on the purpose of the webinar. So we'll just get that up. The purpose is to share our action-based research that aim to identify sustainable practices to attract, retain, and support the well-being of newcomer young adults in Alberta's food and beverage sector. And we're going to touch on a few topics today. So, we're going to talk a bit about our research over the last couple of years, the solution that we built to address some of the challenges newcomer young adults face with employment in the food and beverage sector. And we're going to make sure that you leave knowing how to access the solution or the training website that we developed. So the format for today is we're going to have conversations with members of our project team, so with our project partners, and sharing some of the things that we're most proud of. So we can take the slide down. Couple invitations. On your right, you'll see that there are a few icons there. One at the top being the chat. Please engage as much as you can in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking about what we're presenting. And of course, there's a Q&A, a button, the nice question mark, next icon down. So we will have an opportunity at the end of the webinar to spend some time answering questions. So please, if you have questions along the way, add them there, and we'll check in on what comes up towards the end. So, as referenced by Rachel, we are looking to improve employee hiring and retention and supporting newcomer young adult well-being within the food and beverage sector. So, just a little ask we have for you. Help us out. Take a moment and put in the chat any barriers that come to mind for you that you feel newcomer young adults face with employment in the food and beverage sector. So please take a moment, put a couple things in the chat, and while you're doing that, I'm going to welcome my first guest. So welcome to the stage, Dallas Sutty. Dallas Sutty is the owner and executive chef at Can Golf and Finchie's Bar and Grill in Canmore, Alberta. Dallas, welcome, and tell us a little bit about your business. Oh, sorry, you're on mute, Dallas.
Sorry about that. So Can Golf opened about 3 years ago. So we're an indoor golf restaurant, event space, and catering business in Canmore, Alberta. It's been going strong for 3 years, and excited to see kind of what the future holds for us, for sure. Perfect. I had the opportunity to visit Can Golf and Finchie's Bar and Grill towards the beginning of our project. You weren't there, but when I walked in, we're just going to show a picture, but this is what I would have seen. So nice shot of Dallas's business here, and you can see a sign in the background that says "Fun for Everyone." Now, Dallas, I remember this sign. You talking about this sign the first time we had a chance to meet and chat together. Can you tell us a little bit about this sign and what it means to you? Part of our core values and in our mission statement as a business, it was to set out to be the most inclusive food and beverage and entertainment establishment in Canmore, in our market. And that's something that we've lived every day since we opened. It truly means that we want for everyone to feel included. Being a tourist town, you attract a lot of different people within the client market and people from all over the world, and as well as in the workforce. And I think it was really important for us to really set that tone from day one, that we were inclusive and everyone is as inclusive as you can get, because no one is excluded from that. Perfect. So talking a bit there about why inclusion is important for you and your business. Maybe let us know a bit more broadly about the sector. Why do you think inclusion has been an important topic for you in the food and beverage sector? I mean, I've been in the industry for close to 25 years now, and a lot has changed in that time. And I think it's really important for owners and operators to understand that the workforce is changing, the clientele is changing. The habits of those clients is changing, and I think it's important to and necessary to be outwardly inclusive sometimes to make sure that people really do understand. We keep this front of mind for us every day in our orientations. It's our Wi-Fi password. It's something that we keep
right front and center, as you can see in the picture, and it's the first thing people see when they walk in.
That's great, and I guess it's always nice to capture those sound bites as well. Any just words of advice, short statements, words of advice you have for other food and beverage operators who are watching?
I think the major part is that it is a changing industry and a changing workforce. It has probably changed more over the last 2 decades in Canada than a lot of other industries, especially post-COVID. Inclusion is important. How people feel in your space is extremely important. And I think that it's always important to keep everybody and everyone included in your plans and in your thought process to, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to using Instagram and social media, it's an important aspect because, we live in a more diverse world. We live in a more diverse community. And it's always important for us in the Bow Valley. We have challenges of very transient workers who are coming from all sorts of different walks of life all over the earth, and to have an outwardly inclusive attitude from day one is really important.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Dallas, for sharing a bit about your journey with us, and of course, being a member of our project team over the past couple of years.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, so I think I saw there was some comments coming in the chat, and yeah, so it looks like we have some responses coming in. I'd like to now invite my colleague Emily to talk with us about challenges newcomer young adults face in the food and beverage sector and some promising practices to address them. So this is Emily Bassi, Research and Policy Associate here at PolicyWise, and she's been supporting this project for about a year now. So Emily, what are you seeing in the chat?
Thanks, Eric. Thanks to everyone so far who has engaged in the chat. Looks like one response, but definitely as we're going through the webinar, feel free to, reflect on that question as well. So I'm seeing racism and discrimination, language barriers, transportation barriers. Definitely there's lots of barriers that we have been exploring in this research. And if you want to contribute, want to add a little bit more into the chat, please feel free to do so. But for today, to help ground some of these barriers, we really want to touch on some of the research we did earlier on in the project. And this can be found in the summary report, which we're going to link in the chat as well.
Yeah, that's right. In the summary report, we talk about challenges newcomer young adults face in getting established in the food and beverage sector, as well as some promising practices. But before we talk a bit about promising practices, can you share with us a little bit about the summary report and our research activities?
Yeah, so we started out by completing an environmental scan, which included reviewing academic and non-academic documents. We also conducted thought leader and key stakeholder interviews, and this included interviews with food and beverage operators and sector representatives. It also included social service providers and newcomer young adults as well. And the goal of all these activities was really to explore the causes of labor shortages in the industry, the challenges that newcomer young adults face in securing and maintaining employment, and existing employment supports for newcomer young adults as well. We also met with our community working group and project advisory group members, and then we also held 2 sessions with 4 newcomer young adults and 1 engagement session with 6 food and beverage leaders as well. So we really tried to, balance looking at some existing work that's been done already, but also directly connecting with folks currently impacted or involved in the industry as well.
Nice, good reminder of how much we were able to do over the last couple of years. And I think you have a slide to share. Yeah, tell us about a few of the promising practices that we learned about.
Sure, thanks, Eric. I'm also just noticing in the chat, we've also got another response, not knowing about labor rights in Canada and therefore have challenges advocating for themselves. So definitely, and we're hoping that some of the promising practices that we're going to highlight today are kind of trying to start getting at some of those barriers. So before we get into a few barriers, we do want to highlight that in the summary report, we actually highlight 29 promising practices. So not enough time to cover all of them today, but definitely if you've got some time, feel free to check those out. And the barriers that we have so far been, seeing in the chat and talking about today really do sort of relate to the responses or to some of the promising practices that we're going to highlight. So the first promising practice is to build partnerships between food and beverage operators and health, social, and community supports. So something that we learned in our engagement work with newcomer young adults is that they can really struggle to find employment. They also highlighted that being able to connect to community supports and networks is really important to their overall well-being. So building partnerships between food and beverage operators and health, social, and community supports is really key to supporting their well-being and connection to community. And this can also relate to this piece around that's in the chat about not knowing about labor rights in Canada, because that can really bridge their connection to that as they're, getting connected to health and social and community supports as well. And a really great example of this is the Bow Valley Immigration Partnership, which is a group of partners with representatives from every sector working together for a welcoming and inclusive Bow Valley. So it's a really great example of seeing different sectors coming together and trying to build community as well. The second promising practice I'm going to highlight is to use plain language when communicating about job and career opportunities. And this relates to one of the first comments in the chat about language barriers. So we learned in our engagement work with food and beverage leaders and newcomer young adults that many businesses are so entrenched in the day-to-day that they don't always realize when they're using acronyms or technical language. And this can really span from job postings to interviews to the training process. So it's really important to do a review of job postings, trainings, and overall communications to make sure that plain language is used and acronyms are defined. And also just because every sector uses different terminology and acronyms. So yeah, it's just really important to define that out for folks and kind of continue to check in on the types of terminology that are being used. And then just basically this can really help reduce barriers to understanding job roles, build confidence in applicants, and also support more equitable hiring through that hiring process as well. The next promising practice is build the leadership skills of leaders to provide mentorship to staff. So something that was really memorable in our engagement work in talking to newcomer young adults was the really important role that leaders that they've worked for can play in their lives. And this was something that we heard about many times in connecting with newcomer young adults. And that can be from just supporting them at work, navigating challenges, to building new skills, to navigating different employee dynamics as well, and even future job prospects. So leaders can really kind of develop skills and tools to mentor staff effectively and also become role models. And this can be done by developing leadership skills and also establishing mentorship as an important aspect of organizational culture. It can also help create pathways for future leaders as well and just overall improve job performance. And I think we're also seeing that with Dallas, who we just met previously, with him really taking a role in making statements about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and the impact that that's having on his business as well. And then the last promising practice that I'll highlight today is to participate in training and develop policies on equity, diversity, and inclusion. So our environmental scan work and engagement with food and beverage leaders revealed that there is less accessible trainings and resources available for employers that relate to the food and beverage sector and that cover equity, diversity, and inclusion. Also, the sector is just really unique. We know that there is really limited time capacity of leaders. It's often an incredibly fast-paced and stressful work environment. And that even just one person missing from the team can really impact service. So yeah, this was just something that we really had in our minds through this process. And yeah, like it's definitely challenging to make trainings available that really suit this sector. So this promising practice really includes just building time and capacity in anyone who is in a leadership position. And when we're talking about leadership, this can really expand to include the chefs, the supervisors, management, owners and operators, team lead, really anyone in leadership positions. And this can be really quite broad in the food and beverage industry. And this can also include revisiting established policies or creating new ones that address equity, diversity, and inclusion as well. This can really help support building capacity in leaders and provide guidelines to introduce kind of greater equity and inclusion at work. So this is the solution that we decided to take and pilot test that we are here chatting about in this webinar. And there really are elements of all 4 of these promising practices and more, which are highlighted in the summary report that you'll hopefully notice as we go over the trainings.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Emily, for sharing a few of your favorite promising practices with everyone today. Yeah, like Emily mentioned, we did choose building equity, diversity, and inclusion, capacity building as the direction we would go in this project. And we have a slide to show tell you a bit about how we made that decision. So our decision was to move forward with capacity building with the food and beverage sector around supportive workplace culture for newcomer young adults. So we will develop and test practical training related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. So a few criteria that we use to make that decision: impact, timing, alignment, and sustainability. So for impact, we wanted to ensure the solution benefited both food and beverage operators and newcomer young adults. So this type of training helps food and beverage folks attract and retain staff. It also supports newcomer young adults' employment and well-being. Timing, wanted to ensure that whatever we work on is building on where there's currently momentum within the community. We heard through our key stakeholder interviews that folks in the industry felt it was time to move from building will to address equity, diversity, inclusion to taking action. Sector alignment. So we wanted to ensure that the solution that we moved forward with was one that allowed the participation of social and community services and supports. And sustainability. So wanted to make sure the solution that we developed will remain impactful after the prior project was complete. So a training web page and training materials can be available long after the project ends. So now we're excited to show you or introduce you to the training website. So we have a video. Courtney.
Welcome to the Building Inclusive Workspaces webpage, which was designed for those new to equity, diversity, and inclusion training, or those looking to deepen their knowledge. The landing page is designed to help guide learners through the different materials and make it easy to access and understand. Beginning with links at the top of the page that will take learners to each topic section. Once you've followed the link to the topic you select, you can review the included materials. At the bottom of each section is a link that will take you back to the top of the web page so you can select your next topic. When first accessing the website, it's helpful to take a look at the How It Works section. This contains tips on how to move through the topics and get the most out of the information and materials. The first topic section contains the foundations of EDI online learning modules. This section contains 6 videos. Each one has a description of the learning points contained within on the left-hand side. You can watch these videos directly on the web page, or you can use the option to watch them on YouTube. The topics of these 6 narrator-led videos are an introduction to enhancing EDI in Alberta's food and beverage sector, Module 1, EDI awareness and cultural competence, Module 2, intercultural competence, Module 3, Accountability and Transparency, Module 4, Bias Awareness, Allyship and Advocacy, and Module 5, Continuous Learning. The next topic section is Practical Toolkits for Leaders. As the name suggests, it equips you with practical tools and strategies to create a psychologically safe and more adaptable workplace. You can access the PDF for this toolkit by clicking on the link embedded in the name, or you can also click on the thumbnail of the toolkit. You can then read through the PDF document online, but you can also download a copy to access when you're not online or to print. The toolkits in this section are psychological safety, flexible shift scheduling, and inclusive recruitment. The third and final section that contains learning materials for this project concentrates on microlearning videos. Microlearnings break topics up into more bite-sized and digestible pieces. Their focus on key concepts as well as their shorter length make them ideal for busy learners. This section contains 6 videos. Each one has a description of the learning points contained within on the left-hand side. Like the foundations of EDI online learning modules, you can watch these videos directly on the web page, or you can use the option to watch them on YouTube. Additionally, a link embedded in the title of the video will also allow you to watch them on YouTube. The topics of these 6 narrator-led videos are tips for creating a more interculturally supportive workplace, acronyms and industry-specific terminology, indirect communication style, being on time, differences in eye contact, and not leaving at the end of the day. The final section of the web page is information about why this training is important and contains things like the issue that this training was designed to address, how this training is the solution to the proposed problem, and the competency model, which is the foundation of the training that was created. This section also contains information about the project funders and project partners. For any questions regarding this training or any other PolicyWise project, their contact information is at the bottom of the website. We hope you'll find the training materials for the Building Inclusive Workplaces project both enjoyable and informative.
All right, so overall, package these training materials onto this training webpage to ensure that there's flexible approach for learners to choose their own journey based on their interests and needs. Ensure the opportunity for learners to revisit materials when encountering new situations, and balance learning time between reviewing training content and completing the self-guided reflection and action-oriented activities found throughout the training materials. I'll also just quickly mention that we will present more on the competency model, which was introduced in the video a little bit later. But first, we want to dive a little more into the training materials. And to do this, I'm going to call on a few more colleagues and partners to come talk with me to tell us a little bit more about the training materials that they developed. So we're going to start with the training modules. So welcome Amy and Hurley to the stage. So just start with introductions. Amy Mai, Learning and Technology Coordinator with Alberta Association of Immigrant Serving Agencies, and Hurley Cervera, who has over 20 years of combined teaching, facilitation, and curriculum development experience across university, college, and not-for-profit settings. And as an added bonus, Hurley also has experience working in the food and beverage sector. Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about ASA?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Amy, and I work for ASA. So ASA is a nonprofit umbrella agency that has been representing, supporting, and advocating for Alberta's settlement and integration sector since 1980 through research, professional development, engagement, and advocacy.
Perfect. And yeah, just wondering, what motivated you and ASA to partner with us on this project?
Yeah, there are a few reasons why we wanted to collaborate with PolicyWise. First of all, our main goal is to create a strong collaboration and partnership with PolicyWise to address the needs of newcomers. Furthermore, our mandate focuses on sharing knowledge and expertise to support newcomers in settlement and integration. And finally, with Hurley's expertise in EDI, newcomer populations, and as well as in the food and beverage sector, we identified a perfect opportunity to collaborate, mainly to share information, knowledge, and strategies to support leaders in the food and beverage sector, kind of to deepen their understanding of EDI practices when working with newcomer young adults. Secondly, to adopt a non-biased approach to communication and decision making while recognizing cultural differences to foster understanding, empathy, and respect. And finally, to kind of to apply the skills and knowledge to promote and implement EDI awareness in the daily work practices.
Fantastic. And for all those reasons, we were so happy to have Asa engaged in this work with us, and Amy and Hurley. Involved quite a bit with our project team. Hurley, so you built most of the curriculum and content in the training modules. Why do you think short learning modules are a good way for folks to learn about equity, diversity, and inclusion, including leaders in the food and beverage sector?
Thank you so much, Eric, and good morning to all the attendees of this gathering for today. True enough, Eric. Yeah. So when we build already those particular materials in a micro learning approach, so that will give like kind of bits and pieces of information to participants. So specifically that our target audience or market is very busy, and they require a lot of work consumption, and at the same time, so having them attend this particular training would be a lot of time, so an effort on their part. So having these materials built in a shorter form will kind of facilitate a bigger range in terms of how they can retain the information, how they can attend, so quickly, and at the same time without missing their work. So that's really very intended on the purpose of their, so being in the workforce.
Perfect. And I know we asked you to share maybe a clip of one of the learning modules that maybe you had that maybe you enjoyed most. So you did provide us this clip, and Courtney's gonna play it for us now.
In the food sector, outcomes improve significantly when employees feel included, perceive fairness, and work for a company that champions diversity. When staff members believe they are valued and part of an inclusive environment, it enhances their engagement and productivity. Understanding their needs and fostering a sense of belonging leads to a more effective workplace planning and initiatives, ultimately benefiting overall performance and customer service. An inclusive environment ensures that everyone feels a sense of belonging, safety to express themselves authentically, and confident that their contributions are valued. It promotes fairness through equitable policies and practices, fostering effective collaboration among a diverse range of individuals. Today, we'll explore how cultivating such a culture benefits both our team dynamics and overall organizational success. At its core, an inclusive culture ensures that every member of our team experiences a profound sense of belonging. enabling them to express themselves authentically and confidently, knowing their contributions are valued. By promoting fairness through equitable policies and practices, we foster an environment where diverse perspectives thrive and collaboration flourishes. In the workplace, no fear but fair policies means implementing rules and procedures that ensure fairness and transparency. This creates an environment where employees feel confident to voice concerns without fear of retaliation. For instance, a restaurant implements a policy where all staff members are encouraged to report safety or hygiene issues without fear of punishment. If an employee notices a potential health violation in the kitchen, they can report it through a confidential system. The policy ensures that the issue will be addressed fairly and without retribution, promoting a culture of safety and openness. Let's examine this situation and reflect. Restaurant management needs to adjust the staff schedule during a busy shift. With a diverse team that values hierarchical respect, getting input from everyone can be challenging. Team members might hesitate to voice their opinions, fearing it could challenge authority. To address this, the supervisor invites feedback respectfully and inclusively, fostering open communication while honoring cultural sensitivities.
All right. I do need Hurley back on. So we got Amy coming back too. It's perfect. All right. So, Hurley, why did you choose that clip?
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so yeah, for sure. So this clip is just a glimpse of the overall purpose of our equity, diversity, and inclusion awareness. So making sure that the EDI practice is indeed observed and practiced in any workplace, specifically in the food sector industry. The power of belonging is important in any workplace. So when employees feel included, their engagement, collaboration, and productivity are enhanced. And in all, so researches that I have also gathered based on this particular project, I noted that moreover, employees are perceived to be more motivated at work when they feel a sense of belonging in their authentic selves, and at the same time are treated fairly, no fear, but rather having those fair practices in the workplace, and are confident enough that their contributions in the work are often valued. So having this particular slide will just give us a short glimpse of how, so this whole kind of training will impact those who will be participating to avail of what really is this concept of EDI in the workplace and beyond. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy and Hurley, for joining us to share a bit about your work. And I know your comments, Hurley, about inclusion and belonging really resonate with me and my experience in my employment. So just take a minute to remind folks there is the question and answer box on the right of the screen. Any burning questions, just curiosities that you have. Take some time, put some questions in there, and we'll have some time at the end of the webinar to hopefully answer a couple of them. So let's move on. Let's talk about the toolkits. And I want to bring Maxine up on the stage. Maxine Meyer, Senior Research and Policy Associate here at PolicyWise. Earlier this year, Maxine, minding her own business, reached out because I knew she had some experience in developing curriculum in another project, and she agreed to take on development of one of our toolkits, and that's the flexible shift scheduling toolkit. So, welcome, Max. And why do you feel that flexible shift scheduling is such an important subject?
Yeah, hi, thanks. Thanks for asking that, Eric. Before kind of getting into why it's important, I was thinking I could start with defining what flexible shift scheduling means. So this is a process of creating work schedules using a different pattern from that more rigid schedule, like a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And it aims to accommodate employee preferences and capacities, as well as meet business needs. So flexible shift scheduling really has potential benefits from both the employee and the employer sides. So to start with the employee side, flexible shift scheduling can promote satisfaction and well-being. So newcomer young adults that we engaged throughout this project, they talked about how flexible shift scheduling can allow them to have more control over their schedules and be able to manage other commitments in their life. It can help them reduce stress and burnout and achieve better work-life balance. So when employees feel like they can safely communicate and be encouraged and have their scheduling needs met, they tend to be more engaged and committed to their work. So lots of benefits there on the employee side. On the employer side, leaders can use flexible shift scheduling to adjust staffing based on business needs to control labor costs while maintaining service quality. So flexible shift scheduling can help leaders develop, can also help leaders develop their professional competencies like teamwork, problem solving, and conflict resolution. And I know we'll talk about the competency model later on. And since it's used to, or since it's tied to employee satisfaction, it can also help with retention. So adopting flexible shift scheduling can show respect and consideration for employees' needs and well-being, leading to an overall more positive workplace culture. So you can find all this information and more on the toolkit, in the toolkit on flexible shift scheduling.
Perfect. And yes, it is a flexible shift scheduling toolkit. So just wondering your thoughts on toolkits. Why are they a good way for folks to learn, including or maybe especially leaders in the food and beverage sector?
Yeah, toolkits can be a really practical way for leaders in the food and beverage sector to learn when they have a lot of other demands on their time. So they're really meant to be action-oriented and help learners easily adapt and apply the content and strategies that they read about and learn about in the toolkit directly to their work. Another great thing about toolkits is that they usually use a combination of sharing different types of information and tools like templates, checklists, reflective questions, different activities that can be very interactive, interesting, and applicable for the learner. And yeah, the toolkit on flexible shift scheduling is an example of a toolkit that's meant to help food and beverage sector leaders plan, implement, and evaluate their scheduling approaches.
Perfect. And I believe you're going to do a little demonstration of the flexible shift scheduling toolkit. So I'll let you do that.
Yeah, I'd love to highlight a couple of sections of the toolkit. So I'll just share my screen. Oops. All right. Just want to confirm that you can see that, Eric. Perfect. So starting here, we have the title page for the Flexible Shift Scheduling Toolkit for leaders in the food and beverage sector. There you go. And moving along here to the table of contents, this gives us an idea of that overall structure of the toolkit. So there are two main areas in this toolkit. So the introduction, that includes background information on the topic. and then the areas of action that provide promising practices and actionable steps to take around planning, implementing, and evaluating flexible shift scheduling. And so this toolkit was designed for learners to really be able to jump to whichever section is relevant to them at the time. So it doesn't necessarily need to be completed in the order that's laid out here. So let's have a look at the section on planning flexible shift scheduling as an example of an action area. So under the broader planning action area, there are several actions and promising practices that you can see here. So something else to keep in mind is that all the actions don't need to be addressed at once. So we really encourage food and beverage leaders to choose the actions that are most useful to their context and challenges that they may be experiencing, and start there. So one example or one aspect of planning involves developing scheduling policies and procedures. So I'll just use that again as another example. So the structure for these sections includes a description, a list of promising practices, and then links to supporting resources. For the supporting resources, so you see the purple icon and the green icon. Learners can find them in the appendix or online, and these can really help deepen their learning beyond what's included in the toolkit. And then finally, each action area ends with a case scenario and reflection activity. These often incorporate quotes from newcomer young adults and sector leaders, which I find provide really great real-world examples. The reflective activities include questions that encourage learners to reflect on their experiences and learning tied to a case scenario, and this can promote critical thinking and application of the context in the toolkit. So in this example, it's a case study that addresses the importance of understanding and respecting both the cultural background of employees and local labor laws. And there'll be lots of different case scenarios throughout the toolkit. So learners are encouraged to work through the scenarios with their teams to connect the activity with real experiences, context, and opportunities. So hopefully all food and beverage sector leaders can find something interesting or helpful within these toolkits.
Thanks so much, Maxine. Really glad that you ended up sharing the case scenario example. It's one of the things that I appreciate most about the toolkits, especially because they really spur sort of that individual sort of learner reflection, but also sometimes prompting them to bring conversations and reflect with their teams. So always good to ground learning in our personal experience. And yeah. So thanks so much, Max, for joining us and sharing a bit about your experience in developing the flexible shift scheduling toolkit.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. You don't know it yet, but you have already experienced some of my next guest's handiwork as the narrator of the website walkthrough video. I'd like to welcome Julie to the stage to talk to us a bit about the micro learning videos. So this is Julie McRae, Adult Learning and Special Projects Lead with Cultural Advantage and Edmonton Newcomers Center. Julie, tell us a bit more about Cultural Advantage and the Edmonton Newcomer Center.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. Welcome, everybody. So Cultural Advantage is a special program that's being developed by the Edmonton Newcomer Center. Used to be EMCN. Some might recognize that name a little bit more. We've just rebranded. So myself and e-learning assistant Haranya, who's in the audience here, we are currently working on this project. It's grant funded. And it's designed for employers. Now, the Edmonton Newcomer Center has been around for over 40 years, and our kind of sort of major focus has been on helping to improve the lives of immigrants, refugees, even people with work permits, etc., doing what we can to improve and make sure that people can settle and feel comfortable. But we have also worked informally with employers this whole time to help kind of bridge the gaps between newcomers and the employers that they're working for. And so this project is specifically designed to work with employers. We don't feel that the burden of adaptation needs to fall directly always on the shoulders of the newcomers. It's not reasonable. So the idea is that we're creating trainings for employers to help them increase their intercultural competency. And this is going to allow them to retain newcomer talent, attract newcomer talent. And so they have skills to do adaptation themselves. And this is a way that they can benefit from the newcomer workforce here in Alberta. But it was kind of mentioned a little bit earlier on. I think Dallas kind of alluded to this. It's not just the newcomer workers. We've got newcomer clients. So we have to be able to speak to this growing base of newcomer clients in all industries. And so that's what this Cultural Advantage project is kind of designed for. We are currently creating micro learning videos, which you'll see an example of in a few moments here. But we are also creating a self kind of paced e-learning portal to bring employers to these trainings that are going to, again, be very practical, not just theory-based, because people want, okay, that's great to know this, but how do I actually do it? And that's what our focus is. And we're also going to be doing, in-person or online training, basically whatever an employer needs. And the outcome is we're working towards a more welcoming environment for newcomers and a more content and productive workplace all around for employers.
Perfect. So lots of alignment there between sort of our goals within policy-wise and with this project. And so glad to have, feel quite privileged to have such strong partners like yourself in this project. But what was it for you in the Edmonton Newcomers Center? Why did you decide to engage in this work with us?
Well, I think it just made sense. Our goals very much aligned. We want to kind of do the same thing that you're, working towards right now for the food and beverage sector, for all sectors in Alberta, because that need is huge. And so it only made sense for us to be able to pool our resources and kind of work to make both projects stronger. And I think that definitely has created our ability to reach the people that we need to reach in tandem here, and also connect us with some other great partners, the other folks we've already talked to and heard from. And I just think this will set us both up to be able to do better for the people that we want to serve. So.
Perfect. And I don't think there was much of a conversation about how the Newcomer Center was going to contribute to our project together. It was always going to be micro-learning videos. So I know quite a strong focus within Cultural Advantage, but why do you feel that micro-learning videos are such an important piece of the training puzzle?
Well, I think it's already been mentioned. I know Amy had mentioned a little bit about this, and same with Hurley, about how making micro learnings in general are taking kind of large concepts and kind of distilling them down into something a little bit easier, especially for busy individuals. The micro learning videos take it a step further because these are things that involve visual storytelling. They are a lot less text, and the idea is that a person feels like they're part of what they're watching. So you could be busy doing something and then watching the story kind of unfold, and the idea is that you absorb it quicker, but you retain it longer. So these micro learning videos are a great way to introduce topics, but also to reinforce topics. where people hardly even feel like they're learning. And that's sometimes the best way of doing things, especially if you're very, very busy, right? And so these are, we've got 10 microlearning videos, specifically topic videos on our YouTube channel, which anybody can access. Some of those, of course, are showcased by this PolicyWise project. Some were developed specifically for topics for the PolicyWise project. And we are going to be adding more. And basically, we just want to give people an opportunity when maybe they can't sit down and spend time and take notes and really, kind of do things that way, to give very actionable pieces that they can walk away and feel like they've taken something with them that they're going to use. And the one, so we're going to see an example here of one of those videos, and one is just a very quick one. And this particular video looks at tips of creating a more interculturally supportive workplace. So that's the one we're going to see.
Perfect. Well, let's have a look.
Welcome to an intercultural learning moment, brought to you by Cultural Advantage. In this video, we look at some tips for creating a more interculturally supportive workplace. Many people have dietary restrictions due to medical issues, allergies, etc. But there are religious and cultural considerations as well. So a helpful suggestion is, when hosting work functions, find out the dietary preferences of your employees and provide inclusive food options. Newcomers settling in Canada come from many different countries, cultures, and practice many different religions. In a small organization, you may be better able to learn about your employees' backgrounds. However, in a larger organization, it might be very difficult to learn the background of each and every employee. So, it can be helpful to expand your knowledge of different religions in general. Then you can make a point to avoid scheduling meetings and events on days of religious significance. This deeper understanding of different religions and religious practices will help inform organizations of how they can support their workers as they participate in these practices. To do this, a company could provide a space where employees can pray and observe worship times. No one knows your industry, company, and department like an existing employee. They have a wealth of knowledge to share with any new worker, and a newcomer worker just beginning their position would find them an excellent resource. Therefore, it's a good idea to partner up new hires with a mentor employee that can help them learn about their job and company culture. Canada is a multicultural country, and that means our workplaces are filled with people with backgrounds from all over the world, both born Canadians and those who have moved to Canada from various other countries. So it is useful for everyone in your organization to learn more about working in an intercultural environment that supports everyone, no matter their background. To achieve this, a company can invest in intercultural training for their whole organization that will provide tools and strategies for frontline workers through to management. These tips can help an organization create a more interculturally supportive workplace, where all members feel valued and respected. A positive working environment and high employee morale leads to better worker retention. We're looking forward to working with you.
Oh, great. I know, Julie, you already mentioned that you developed 6 of these videos specific for this project, targeting sort of topics and also themes from food and beverage establishments. Why did you choose this specific video?
Well, I think it just kind of gives a couple, again, really quick, actionable sorts of things. So really easy things for an organization to start implementing, because sometimes these concepts can seem very big, like where do I even start? And all of these things would be very easy for an organization to go, oh yeah, I can do that. I can ask somebody, hey, do you have any kind of food restrictions, that kind of thing. You can, do a little bit of, research on the internet or something on your break about different religions, those sorts of things, or look up a calendar like religious days of significance and say, Ramadan's coming up. Maybe I won't schedule an important meeting during, some of these days, right? Or particular times during the days. So I think it's really good to give people some sort of confidence that these things are not that difficult. And if you start with something simple, then it's easier to build as you go forward.
Perfect. Great choice for our webinar. So thanks so much, Julie, and also to Maxine and Amy and Harley for helping us dive a bit more into the training materials that we developed together. So just a little summary of what we've done so far. So we've talked about barriers newcomer young adults face, promising practices to support newcomer young adults employment in the sector. We've provided an orientation to the training website, and we dove a little deeper into the training materials. So let's talk about testing and evaluation. So this project did not only include the research and solution development or the development of the training materials, it also included a short solution testing period. So we did recruit 10 learners from food and beverage, mostly restaurants, and leaders, so managers, supervisors, head chefs, folks like this. And they had 2 months to test out the training material and provide us with some feedback along. So I'm going to invite my next guest, Colin, to the stage. Welcome, Colin. This is Colin Pun, employer engagement liaison and job developer with strategic workforce integration and entrepreneurship within Action for Healthy Communities. Colin, tell us a little bit more about that long title and what you do at Action for Healthy Communities.
100%. Thank you for the introduction. I felt like I won an Oscar here. So I'm Colin Pond. I'm the Employment Engagement Liaison here at Action for Healthy Communities. We're a government-funded nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting newcomers in their journey to success in Canada through our settlement, youth, and employment support services. At AHC, we're just more than a service provider. We're bridging and connecting newcomers to opportunities, assisting them build capacity. So our employment support program is designed to empower individuals through comprehensive services that address the unique challenges of entering the Canadian job market. So some of the things that we do here at AHC would be targeted workshops to enhance job readiness, work exposure courses that provide real-world insights, and network and hiring events with our valued employer partners, which we have over 60 of them here within the organization. In the past year alone, more specifically for youth employment, we've supported over 100 youth individuals through resume workshops, interview prep, and ultimately helping them find employment within food and beverage industry. One of our big supporters here within AHC works within like the fast food industry, but we also have different restaurants that are local within the city that have hired some of our youth as well. Our mission goes beyond just finding jobs. We're about building capacity, fostering community integration, and creating pathways for success for newcomers in Canada. At AHC, we believe that every individual has potential, and we're committed to helping them unlock that.
All right. So great to work with yourself, and a special nod to Bassam as well in the live audience for partnering with us over the past couple of years. And now I am going to jump off the stage and leave the spotlight on Colin to talk about the evaluation results, and he'll start walking you through some slides.
Perfect. So our first slide coming up, just a little bit of an intro. So for the next few minutes, we'll chat through some of the evaluation work that we did. We would like to preface that some of the context about the scope of the data we collected, we struggled with getting participation in some of the evaluation activities. Not all learners were able to provide feedback. Some did not participate in a survey or focus group. Much of this section is really focusing on some of the things we've learned from the evaluation, but the feedback is limited. So these are preliminary observations from those who participated in the evaluation activities. Next slide, please, Courtney. Excellent. So here are some of the methods that we sought to use. We did a short weekly survey exploring how relevant, clear, and engaging learners found the information in the trainings they completed each week. A 60-minute focus group, which provided an opportunity to reflect on any changes for impacts noticed, as well as any adjustments learners anticipate making in the future. Lastly, a longer one-time survey completed at the end of the testing period, exploring perspectives of the learners on current and future impacts of the training on them and their workplace. We didn't end up receiving responses to the one-time survey, so there are no results from this survey included in what we will share with you here today. Next slide, please, Courtney. Awesome. So early survey results. So I'm going to preface that the results were pretty good. Well, actually, not just pretty good. They're very good. The weekly survey was answered 23 times by likely 5 different learners. Here is a bar chart showing the participant ratings for the training materials on 4 topics: clarity of content, practical skills that they can apply, relevance to the challenges they face, and how engaging the training materials were. All questions are rated on the survey respondents on a 5-point scale. 0 obviously being worst, 5 being amazingly awesome. Overall, the results were positive. The clarity measure received the highest score with a 3.7. The engaging measure received the lowest score at 3.3. 4 was the most frequent rating for all 4 of the measures. Next slide, please, Courtney. So here are some of the highlighted themes for the open-ended questions related to success trainings. Participants appreciated the relevance of the content of the trainings to the sector. One participant noted that the training is interesting and gives details about leaders in the food and beverage sector, daily issues that need to be dealt with, and it's very informative. Participants noted that consistency and overlap between the trainings allowed them to reinforce and build a knowledge of key concepts and skills. For example, one participant said, "I think everything was really connected. Everything, the modules, the toolkits, the microlearning videos, everything was connected. Everything was about equity, diversity, inclusion, so I enjoyed it all." They also reported that some of the training materials were easier for them to complete because they fit well into their busy shifts. An example provided, this was a microlearning videos. They were quick and easy to access. It was also noted that the toolkits were useful for just picking up whenever they had time, and the modules were helpful because they were narrated, recorded, and accessible anytime. Lastly, participants also highlighted the importance of using practical examples as helpful for learning. We tried to build and use examples from our engagement with folks in the industry. Courtney, next slide, please. Awesome. So we also wanted to understand how the trainings could be improved. Here are some suggestions from learners on what they would like to see. While it was mentioned already the overall trainings were relevant for the sector, we did receive feedback that certain content in the training didn't fully align with the harsh realities of the food and beverage sector. For example, leaders having time to learn about the community health and social supports their staff may need when you are short-staffed and the restaurant is so busy that there isn't time to even take a break. One participant also said, with some of the modules, I think they're too soft because the food and beverage sector is really hard work and it's a harsh environment as well. Several participants expressed the desire for even more practical, real-life examples showing both the wrong and right ways to approach difficult workplace scenarios, to visualize better practices and improve understanding. For example, one participant mentioned, "I wish it was more where it was scenarios, videos where we can see life things that happened in the workplace." Participants also expressed a preference for visual learning, with some suggesting that videos showing both good and bad examples of behavior would be a great way to illustrate key points. And finally, some participants highlighted food and beverage sector cultural challenges that didn't feel quite addressed in the training. These challenges including party culture, mental health challenges of staff, and limited time and capacity of the sector to participate in the training activities. So, with the slides complete, here's a quick video to share some of the learners, what some of the learners had to say about the impact the trainings had on them and their workplace.
These trainings were built around a core competency model, organized into 3 key sections. The first section, Foundations of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, establishes the groundwork for meaningful change. It introduces essential EDI principles and equips supervisors with foundational knowledge to build cultural awareness, accountability, and advocacy, fostering inclusive workplaces. Leadership Development, the second section, focuses on the critical role leaders play in shaping workplace culture. It provides strategies for inclusive leadership, engaging employees, resolving conflicts, and managing change while integrating EDI into everyday organizational practices. Finally, the Practical Skills section offers hands-on strategies tailored for supervisors in the food and beverage sector. These include approaches for recruiting, retaining, and supporting newcomer young adults, with an emphasis on inclusive practices, flexible scheduling, effective onboarding, and creating psychologically safe environments. To illustrate the real-world impact of this training, we're sharing participant feedback from 4 key areas of the competency model: accountability and transparency, conflict resolution, intercultural communication, and fostering an inclusive and psychologically safe work environment. Let's hear directly from the participants about their experiences. Participants shared how leadership can demonstrate accountability and transparency through everyday actions, like admitting to their own mistakes or informing staff in advance of potential changes. Here are 2 example quotes.
When they talk about accountability and transparency, specifically for leaders, we need to have that in practice and be an example to our fellow colleagues, right? So, for certain things, yes, it's okay to make a mistake, acknowledge it, and we can fix it. The whole point is teaching people to know that it's okay, even if something happens, then you learn from it and you can move forward from that.
So now I can see that I should let my staff know about changes ahead of time, like what changes are happening next week or even in a month. Because no one ever really tells them and they sometimes forget. So yeah, informing our staff about anything like that. I think that is one thing that I need to do differently, because how would they know if I didn't tell them?
Participants highlighted the importance of conflict resolution skills, emphasizing how training helped them build confidence in addressing workplace disputes professionally and constructively.
The training on resolving conflict. For example, as a supervisor or leader, if you find people shouting at each other in front of the customer, what do? How do you act on it? How am I going to deal with it and still be professional and not alarm other guests? How do we do it better? This training helped me to not try to find the cause right there on the spot. Instead, I pulled them on the side or even in the office and just try to get information on what took place.
Just knowing that this is the policy and procedure that needs to take place, and I need to follow this. Basically, it's more about how to deal with conflict. So that's how this training has really helped me build my confidence in that.
Participants emphasized the value of training in intercultural communication, noting how it provided insights into addressing language barriers, ensuring clarity, and fostering respectful interactions across diverse cultural backgrounds.
In the training, they also talked about intercultural communication. We come from different cultures and different areas, so English is not our first language. But how can we communicate and make sure that the message has been sent to and the person understands? How do you demonstrate it, right? It gave me insights on how to approach certain individuals, not be disrespectful, and not assume that they understand.
Lastly, participants highlighted the importance of fostering an inclusive and psychologically safe work environment, emphasizing the value of self-reflection, active listening, collaborative problem-solving, and encouraging open communication to support team members effectively.
The training tells you how you can talk to people differently, reflect on yourself, on your communication, and how you can do better as a manager.
We should move away from that fear in making mistakes and instead ask, how can we fix it? How can we make sure that it doesn't happen again?
I'm trying to always tell them, just ask, and I can always help if I know what you need help with.
We would like to thank the participants for sharing their stories and experiences to help demonstrate the impact of the trainings.
All right, so I know Colin's already off the screen, but just want to say big thanks to Colin for jumping in and helping us share with all of you some of our findings. And I guess that brings us to the end of what we planned to share with you today. But we do have a couple more things before we close. So I don't want to take another quick look at the purpose slide, Courtney. So our purpose was to share our action-based research that aimed to identify sustainable practices to attract, retain, and support the well-being of newcomer young adults in Alberta's food and beverage sector. We shared some key findings from the 2 years of research on unique challenges faced by newcomer young adults in the food and beverage sector. We provided an insider look at our tested equity, diversity, inclusion training materials, and we ensured that you would leave today knowing how to access and navigate the training materials in a flexible, learner-centered manner. So with that, I'm going to welcome Rachel back to the stage for our Q&A before handing things off to Emily to wrap things up. So Rachel, I think I saw at least maybe one question come in. Over to you.
Thanks, Eric. And yeah, just to encourage others, if there's anything that comes to mind as you're sort of processing everything that you've heard today, feel free to throw it in the chat or in the Q&A section. But yeah, I saw one pop up, thought that's a really great one. It reads, it takes a lot of effort to shift culture. What else is happening in the industry to help newcomers feel like they belong?
All right. I think we're going to bring up at least a couple more of our project partners to help answer that question. So we did give them a heads up. So let's get Carly and Terry on the stage. And as we're welcoming them to the stage, Carly Fleury is joining us. So Carly is Director, Workforce and Destination Initiatives with the Banff and Lake Louise Hospitality Association. And Terry Clay is Director, HR and Safety Services, Alberta Hotel and Lodging Association. And just a reminder, Carly and Terry, you will have to accept our invitation to join the stage, and it looks like you're with us now. So Rachel, maybe repeat the question, and maybe let's start with Carly.
Absolutely. So the question is, it takes a lot of effort to shift culture. What else is happening in the industry to help newcomers feel like they belong?
Can you see me or hear me?
Yes. Oh.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, my computer was a little slow there.
Okay. I think we're having a bit of audio challenges, Carly. So let's go to Terry first.
Can you hear me?
Sure. Hi. What's going on in the industry? I think it's just a very collaborative approach to increasing awareness and then providing tools such as these ones where supervisors and leaders in the industry can, really expand their knowledge and their skill sets so they can create more welcoming, more supportive workplaces. And also building out that community of where else do you go for resources, recognizing that nobody has the time to find all the answers. So they need to, whether it's their industry association, whether it's through one of the newcomer settlement associations, whoever it is, there are additional resources and supports that they can access.
Perfect. So I guess what I'm hearing there is making sure you have your finger on the pulse of what resources and supports are available out there, and making sure they're available to your members, sort of within the hospitality and lodging areas. Perfect. Over Carly. All right. Let's see if your audio is working for us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but I think you're a little bit delayed, so I don't think it's gonna work out. I'll encourage you to maybe put your response in the chat, just to make sure we get to hear your thoughts on the questions. Perfect. Thanks, Carly.
And I'm just looking, there's another question in the Q&A that's come through. Are there any plans to translate some of the tools and documents to other languages? I can see how leaders in the food and beverage industry could benefit, but accessing in English only might be a barrier. Yeah. What are
Well,
your
I
thoughts
think
on this,
probably
Eric?
one of us from policy wise, I think would be good to answer this, and I've talked a lot, so maybe I'll leave this one to you, Rachel. Any thoughts you have?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I agree that there definitely can be that barrier. I think one of our next steps is to look at the sustainability of this project and, where can we house everything and how can we continue to improve it. So I definitely think that this is something that we can and should take into consideration as we look to next steps for what we could possibly do. So really good question there.
Yeah, no kidding. Really appreciate that prompt to make sure we're doing things aligned with EDI principles. Yeah.
No, absolutely a really important consideration for us. So thank you.
Great. I think that's all the questions that were in the Q&A. Do you have any others on the top of your mind, Rachel, or should we move on?
Oh, no, I'm trying to think. I think, saved by the Q&A. There's one more in here. Yeah, no, this is another really great question. How can we keep the momentum going for this work? Like mentioned before, change takes time, but how do we keep the work top of mind in the industry?
Nice. I guess I know one thing that here at policy wise that we're interested in. We are exploring additional sort of funding opportunities. I think hopefully it's quite obvious from how we've structured this webinar that we're so grateful for the partnerships that we've developed with our project team members, and we would love to continue doing this work. I think Rachel mentioned some sustainability pieces, just making sure that we're able to keep building and maintaining the existing training materials and supports that we've developed. But we also know that there's more to do. So at least from a policy-wise perspective, continuing to look for grant project opportunities to continue working with our partners and continuing to address these challenges and making newcomer young adults feel more supported in their employment within the food and beverage sector. Anything you'd add to that, Rachel?
I'm just looking at Julie chimed in just for some practical ways that organizations can look to keep up the momentum, is looking to build it into policy, onboarding, and general training. So that's another great point on that end. And then Eric, as you said, really, I think for us, it's continuing to foster these relationships and look for additional collaborations and where we can continue to add value and ensure this work moves forward.
Perfect. And maybe a heads up to everyone, Harley did have a chance to add her sort of response to that question in the chat. So make sure to have a look there at the good work they're doing on the workplace inclusion charter. Well, thanks everyone for the questions, and Carly and Terry and Rachel for helping me get some answers to them. So that brings us to our last stops. So I think Rachel and I are going to get off the stage, and Emily's going to come back, yeah, to wrap things up. So over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Eric and Rachel. So yeah, we're just going to start bringing this session to a close. We've got another slide to share to acknowledge some of our other project team members. So yeah, just taking a moment to acknowledge these folks on the slide that you may have not had a chance to see or hear from today. They have been, really supportive in guiding this project and contributing to the work. And we just want to make sure that you get to see who some of these folks are. So thank you all. We would also like to acknowledge the Government of Alberta working in partnership with the Government of Canada to provide employment support programs and services. So thank you for funding this project. And then in terms of next steps, we will be sending a follow-up email in a week or so, which will include a link to the webinar, a link to the training webpage, and also a follow-up if there's any unanswered questions. So if any new questions are popping up, then we'll make sure that we take time to answer it in our follow-up email. So yeah, please keep an eye on your email for that. And then we would also like to encourage you to check out and share the trainings that were developed. We are going to add the link to the training website again into the chat. We hope that folks will be able to view them, use them, or share them with others who might be able to benefit from them as well. And then lastly, thank you all. We acknowledge that everyone has busy schedules, and we want to thank you all for taking the time to join us as we build stronger, more sustainable workforce for Alberta's food and beverage sector by finding ways to support the well-being of newcomer young adult employees. So thank you all.